welcome. It's Chris Petri, and thanks for coming by. We're doing some more oil painting. We're doing a beautiful seascape here with a boat and a beautiful dark, rich ocean horizon line, some gray mountains in the background, some beautiful white caps along the foreground here in this oil painting. We'll blend in a beautiful sky with some yellow ochre and white, also mixed in with some purple, blue, green, kind of picking up all the colors that we're using. You'll see all of the color mixes in this tutorial. You're going to see all the colors mixed right on here with oils. You'll see our reference photo at all times on the camera. So basically you're going to be seeing this on camera at all times. And we'll just go over the step-by-step process you'll work to get all of your glazings done on your canvas. We're using a canvas with wood frame, so it's flexible. Sometimes we use hardboards on this channel, so you'll notice I usually use either hardboards or the flexible canvas with the frame, with the wood frames. And but we're going to cover everything right here. Join along, have a fun time. The main thing is have fun, learn what you can as you go, and each time you come back and work with us week after week and month after month, you're going to get better and better and better at your oil painting. So that's the main thing. Repetition is the mother of skill. So you always know if you're repeating something over and over and over again, you'll get better at it just because that's the way it works. The more we practice and the more we work together, the better we're going to get at our oil painting. So we're all in the same boat, so to speak. We're all getting better at our paintings as we work each week, each month, and even year after year. So we'll get started in just a second. All right, we're getting started. We just saw the finished painting. And with oils, I like to use hog hair bristle brushes, natural hair brushes. These are Rhenish. And this is a flat brush, number 1. And then I have 2 round brushes, a number 2 and a number 4. And then a filbert brush, number 6, for like larger areas. So for pretty much for this size painting, which is a 6x8, these brushes seem to be fine. And I also have a palette knife too that I use, a Blix. I got on Blix here. It's a number 10 size stainless steel palette knife. It's got some flexibility to it. You can kind of see it's a little bit flexible. And we could use that for mixing paint too as well. And then I'm using the Artisan by Winsor Newton paints, water mixable oil paints. I find that the water mixable is perfect for me. It seems to make sense. I don't have to use any of the solvents and things like that, like paint thinners and turpentines. And I just basically use this almost like, which I'm used to already, the watercolor process. Basically, I was studied mostly all my years in watercolor, so I'm used to watercolor, so this kind of works the same way. It's just really the paints I squeeze out onto the wax paper palette, and then they're tearaways. So once I'm done for the session or the painting, I just peel up the page and the single page, tear it off, and then there's another fresh piece on here, and that's by Strathmore. And incidentally, all my art supplies are down below in the comment section below if you want to look up anything that I'm using. And anything that I put down below in my description box for my art supplies are things that I'm using on an ongoing basis that I can really guarantee, I can tell you that they really work really well. They're like, they're just, I've been using them for a long time, and they work, excellent. So I'm not going to be putting anything in the description box below where you're going to get it and try to use it and it's not going to function correctly or give you a hard time. It's actually again, everything I have is my own personal gear on art supplies below. And so we'll take some of these paints, we'll squeeze them out. Again, we're doing the seascape here, and we're having fun. We're going to explore different things, colors, tones, and values. We're going to see how we can have fun creating our own ideas as we paint in oils. I always mention this, you're an artist. You're starting out as an artist. You might be just beginning working in oils, or maybe you've been working for a while in oils, or years, even many years. But I always say probably one of the most really fun things about being an artist, painting in watercolors, oils, acrylics, whatever medium you like to work in or you might be working in at the time, finding your own your own ideas that you seem to just, when you're painting and you're working week after week and month after month and even year after year, you're going to find little interesting things that you have like found on your own, and that's going to be really cool and interesting. And that's kind of like you're going to be practicing what other people teach. So on YouTube here, I'm teaching. You're going to be looking at a lot of this stuff that I teach and show on my channel. You'll use a lot of that, and then you'll also find your own things that you're going to kind of incorporate into your style and into your techniques and your methods in oil painting. So I'm glad you're here and working with us. And again, we'll start out by just getting some of our paint on the palette paper. So I always start out with some burnt umber up top, and I use a lot of burnt umber in my paintings. And then my darkest blue, which is the French ultramarine. And these two can be, you can mix these two together and get great, really great darks. Now in this painting, we're not going to have a ton of really, really dark passages in the painting, but it's still good to have it. So I put that at the top. And then I always start out with my warm colors first, and then I work up into my cooler colors up top here. So the first thing I'll do is I'll take a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit there. Can make some really awesome violet colors with French ultramarine blue and alizarin. And then we'll do our cadmium red next up here. And I'll just try to get out a little bit of every color pretty much. And then we'll do some cadmium yellow. Then we'll do cadmium lemon yellow, or cadmium yellow lemon. And you always remember, you could put out a little less when you're starting, and then if you need to add more, you can add more. And then if you add too much, and then you have leftovers at the end of your painting, you can take some vitamin containers. I like to do this. I have to research and get some more at the store, maybe or online. So you could take some vitamin containers like this and use our palette knife, and you can scrape off the excess paint and put them into your vitamin containers, and then save those and put those on the side. And then when you create another painting, you can just go right into this. So I'll wait till these build up till there's quite a bit in here, and then I'll start putting it out onto my palette on one of my next paintings. And we'll keep moving right along here. We have, let's go with the yellow ochre. And then we'll work into our cooler colors. We're going to have the cerulean blue. We're going to use quite a bit of cerulean. And phthalo green, which is like a viridian green. If you're used to viridian green, maybe many of you or some of you are familiar with viridian green. Phthalo green is kind of similar. It's just a little more high intensity, I think, than viridian. And we'll put that there, and I think that's all our colors. Actually, we have, all of our colors are out on the palette right now that we have in our set, our artisan water mixable oil paints here by Winsor & Newton. And then again, we're going to have lots of fun enjoying the process of creating our painting by just layering, glazing. So the first thing we'll do is the first glazing. I think I'm just going to go with a warm color, like a yellow ochre with some white mixed in there. And that's the only thing I didn't squeeze out. Over here is my white. And I also have a giant tube of white. Just recently I bought another giant tube of white because I go through a lot of white when I'm doing my oil paintings. So you'll notice you'll need a lot of white. So you might buy a couple, like 2 or 3 extra tubes of white, because we tend to use that a lot to adjust our tones to our colors so that we can make a light, a lighter yellow ochre. Let's say we want to mix, let's say we're going to do a glazing over the whole canvas right now. And we want to make it a warm, kind of a warm glazing. So I'll take my little bit of yellow ochre and my white. And that should be fine. And what I'll do is, this is a thick amount of paint. And I'm just going to start to really thinly put this on my canvas here. This is again a 6x8 canvas. And this is this isn't a hardboard. This is the soft canvas that has the wood frame. So sometimes I'll use hardboards, and sometimes I'll use these soft canvases. I have quite a number of them at the studio here. I bought I think they were on sale, so I bought quite a few. Buy in bulk. So that's what I wanted to do, is cover the canvas with a warm tone, which is a little bit of yellow ochre and white, titanium white. That's a nice sunny, warm tone. And once you get that on the canvas, we just make sure it's covered everywhere. And that's good. Now, I usually take a tissue at this time, or a paper towel, and I just clean off my knife, my palette knife. And then what I can sometimes do is take the tissue or paper towel and just kind of blend this lightly. I would use a paper towel versus a tissue, because paper towels are a little sturdier. So you'll notice that sometimes if you use tissue to do a little bit of correcting on your painting, or if you want to smooth something out, if you use a paper towel like this, and what I'm doing is I'm doing these horizontal, like this, just to make a nice thin texture of the paint going horizontally. So if you can imagine, I think you can probably see this on the camera. Very, very fine lines going this way, all the way across the whole canvas. And if you see a bit of paper towel or something like that, you can just scrape it right off, and then just go over it quick with another little bit of a pass there with this. So you're almost using this like a paintbrush. You just fold up your paper towel, and you do some of these horizontal strokes across your painting like that. What that does is it kind of picks up any thicker, maybe, paint that's sitting on there from the palette knife. The palette knife does a great job of covering this whole canvas really nicely and quickly, but then we just want to make sure we didn't leave any large bits of oil paint on there, because our next glazing that we go over top of this one, it's going to be a little thicker, and we don't want to have we want to have a light, thin glaze for that first coat. Much like if you're painting in watercolors using the glazing technique, it's kind of the same thing. Those of you that might have worked in some watercolors, when you're doing your first glazing in watercolor, usually it's a lighter wash. You put your water on with a light coat of, or a light wash of paint. So you're not using a lot of thick, heavy paint or thick, rich colors. You're using the very, very light colors, and you're using a very thin, quick layer just to cover the whole sheet of paper. Same thing with oils. While we're doing it this way, this is one way of painting. You can go right in and start out your oil painting and just go right in and start your painting and not really do a glazing like this. But this glazing is kind of good because it does lay down a nice layer of like warm tone to your canvas versus just working on the white canvas itself. But I work on the white canvas too, so you just try different things out as you go, and we'll do all different kinds of methods and techniques here, and you'll kind of work with all of them, and you just eventually you'll maybe find a couple favorite things you like to do, and then you'll keep doing those things more than, let's say, the other things. All right, let's let this sit here for a few minutes or so. I would say I'm probably going to let this maybe sit for about a half an hour to an hour. I think it'll get a little bit dry at that in that amount of time. Maybe like half an hour to an hour, it'll get a little tacky, this paint right now. So right now it's pretty wet. And then in an hour it'll be better. And then we can go in and we'll start doing our next glazings, which is going to be all the colors, the water, the sky washes. We're working from this. This is actually a watercolor I did recently. So I'm going to use this for my reference. We're going to have a small boat in the center, a fishing boat, and we'll do the nice, beautiful water, cool green and blue water, and then we're going to have some of that beautiful warm yellow ochre type sky, which we already have. We've put that yellow ochre into the sky and the water, and then we'll develop it from this point. But we do have that good foundation now, tiny bit of yellow ochre and white, thinly glazed on here. Now we wait about an hour or two. You could even wait 2 or 3 hours probably is fine. You could even paint over it the next day or let it dry completely in a week and then come back and paint over it. So really it's up to you. But I think since we're making this tutorial, let's keep things moving and rolling along here. So I'll come back in a half an hour. All right, so it's been about an hour. I'm coming back, and this paint does seem like it did get a little bit tacky, so I think it definitely dried a little bit. And again, you can keep working. You don't necessarily have to take an hour break. You can keep working as you go. But it does seem like it might be a little bit better if it's has a little bit of time to dry. But all right, let's get right into the colors here. I think cerulean blue and some phthalo green. Phthalo green is extremely high intensity, so when we mix some of that, let's make sure we're and we'll use some of this white that we've already mixed with the yellow ochre. So if you can imagine, if it looks good on your canvas, on your palette here, your palette paper, it's going to look good. So I'm going to keep working out these colors like this on my palette. I'm going to marble in some white too. So if you always can recall back to those beautiful paintings you've seen over your years, the beautiful landscape paintings, oil paintings, and it's always got that wonderful bluish green mixtures of color. Same thing with watercolors. Watercolors have that same beautiful blue and green color. We marble in some white, and that's pretty good. And I think I'll take a little bit of the French ultramarine blue as well, and what I'll do is I'll make that for the horizon line of the ocean, and I'll take a little bit of burnt umber too and mix that in there just so I can get a nice dark. So that would be French ultramarine blue, a little bit of phthalo green. Let's get some phthalo green in there, and even some alizarin crimson. So I'd like to have a nice kind of interesting mix of darks to start with. Now, the first thing I want to do now that I've mixed up my colors, this is what I like to do to start with. Get my colors all mixed up, the colors of what I want to use in the painting, just like this. Same thing I would do with watercolor, and I do with watercolor on a constant basis. Try to mix and think about my colors and focus on that totally, what I'm going to use, get it out onto my palette, and then I'm all set. Now I'm going to concentrate on my design of my painting. And what I'll do is, on this painting here, my watercolor that I'm using for my reference material, we have a large sky and a smaller amount of water. So we're using the principle of not really trying to stay away from just dividing the paper in half and making it half sky, half water. We try to keep the horizon line lower with the distant ocean here, the horizon line of the distant ocean, and then a larger sky. You could also make it more water and go maybe 2/3 of the way up your painting with all of the water and then leave a little bit of sky. But in this one, we're going to use the sky being the larger portion of the painting, and the ocean is going to be a little smaller, maybe 1/3. This here happens to be about 1/4. So if we divided this into 4 quarters, 1/4 is the ocean and 3/4 is the sky. And we're going to stick with that same ratio for our design of our painting right now. So I'll go approximately 1/4. So this is like halfway here. 1/4 of the way is about here. So now that I have my 1/4 point, 1/4 of the way up from the bottom, 1/4 of a cup if we're doing some cooking. And then we'll take the darker blue and I roll a little tiny bit of dark blue onto the palette knife. And I see if I can get a nice dark blue, which is the deep part of the ocean, across here like this, and just drag the knife across on that little line we made there. So we just took our palette knife and went across. You could use a ruler. You could make like 2 small pencil hash marks at each end, the same a distance up. Let's say we went 1.5 inches up here, made a mark. 1.5 inches up here, you make a mark. Then you could take any old straight edge. You could use a ruler. You could use like a piece of cardboard just to set down and make a mark on the paint, because you'll see that wet paint. You'll see that mark going across. So you can make a line with something like a straight edge. Any straight edge you can find, be creative. And then once you have that straight edge marking on your canvas, because you already have this wet paint on here, so once you have this wet paint on this first glazing we did with the yellow, ochre, and white, once you have that glazing on there, if you set something down on top of it like a straight edge, it'll leave a mark, and then that'll be your like kind of pencil line, so to speak, or your marking to kind of keep you on course to where you need to be for that first line of water we're going to do. So here I'm going to just touch down the knife onto the palette and drag it across. And already now I'm thinking, let me leave some whites. I don't want to cover the whole paper with my blue paint, my canvas I should say. I want to leave over here on the right. I'll cover that, and I'll cover this over here, but I want to start leaving some nice bits of sparkles on the water like that. So right away, and this is going to be more of an abstract painting. I'm not really going to go with, incredible amounts of detail here, but we do have a lot of darks in here already, and I think that's pretty good. Now we can start working in our lighter bits of color, which is the cerulean blue, more or less, with white and a little bit of the blue, the ultramarine blue, French ultramarine blue. But you can see how we're starting to develop the waves. And we'll use some white paint too to get some more of these waves coming in. And then as we get closer yet, let's get some more of that phthalo green. We did say it is pretty strong, that phthalo green, so we need to add a little white to it. So let's add some white to that phthalo green. Like that. And there we go. And if it's a little bit marbled looking, don't worry about it. You don't want to mix it, and keep swirling it around forever and make it homogenize completely. Leave some of the, it's better to leave the colors broken a little bit where there's some kind of marbleization to it. It'll look better on the canvas, I guarantee it. There we go. And we're going to put a little bit of an angle on it. Like sometimes the waves come in. They come in on angles, the waves, at the ocean. So we're just going to do that. There we go. And what we'll do is now we'll let this kind of set there. And we're going to use these same colors to do our clouds. We might add a little more. And what I'll do now is I'll add some more white I'm going to need more white. I noticed that right away. Again, we're using a lot of white when we paint with oils. So again, I bought a giant tube, a couple of giant tubes of white, the really large tubes. They're like, you know, super big. I forget how much they are. They might be like 200 milliliters or something like that. These are the 37 milliliter tubes. So they're like hundreds of milliliters, the larger tubes of the white. So I'll put that over there and we'll get some of that white here. Mix it on out. Get some of that white on the paper, on the palette paper. And then we're thinking sky. And again, we're working from this. This is our reference. So we want to kind of stick to this. I mean, I'm not saying this is perfect up here, but I will use this as my guide. And then I'll make a little bit of purple. So that'll be down here, a little bit of alizarin crimson and French ultramarine blue to make a little bit of a purple. I need a little more blue. Okay, that's a little bit better. And I'll just add a little purple down here in the water so that it's not completely okay, a little bit of purple in the water. And then I'll start blocking in a little bit of purple up here. And a little bit of the blue. And brown. Like that. So I'm going to use that, blocking that in for my cloud. Maybe a little bit of the green too in there. Phthalo green. Picking up the colors of the ocean in the sky a little bit. And I'll just kind of blend that in like that. Okay, there we go. Now what I'll do is I'll clean off my palette knife. I'll set that aside, and then I'll have a little bit of water. So I have my water bucket, and we'll put some water in the water bucket just in case we want to rinse off our brush while we're working. I'll have some paper towels in hand. So it's always good to have some paper towels in hand if you're working with your brush now and you're going to be rinsing off your brush. You'll rinse off your brush in water now, and this is water mixable oils again, so you don't need any turpentine or anything like that. No flammable liquids or toxic liquids, just water. And then you come to your paper towel after you rinse your brush off and you dry off some of that water onto your paper towel that you're holding. Or you could use like a sponge or another bit of paper just next to your water bucket if you want to. You can kind of set it up the way you want to, but I'm just showing you the way I would do it. And then here I would just start to kind of just get these clouds, kind of feather this in. I'll lift up this tape. There's tape here to hold my canvas down to the board, so that's why I have that tape there. But once we're done with the painting, I'll lift off that tape and then paint over it. And then right away I notice I need some more gold, some warmth, even though these clouds are cool. I want some of that yellow ochre in there. And then we could start working in some white with a little bit of the yellow ochre. So I'm just trying to really get a kind of a feel for the colors. And again, we're having fun here, experimenting with the oils. That's the main thing. You're having fun and experimenting, trying different color schemes, mixing your colors. You can notice I'm adding a little bit of white for the sky wash here. Then as we come down closer to the horizon line, I'll use a little more yellow ochre, and I'll mix that. I'll thin it down a little bit, even though we're going with the idea of using thicker paint as we go. So each time we put more paint on the painting, it should be a little thicker, but you can always break the rules a little bit and grab a little bit of yellow ochre and get some yellow ochre into your painting. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take some yellow ochre and put a little bit into the ocean here and there. Not everywhere, just kind of touch down a little bit of yellow ochre on the water. And if anything, we're having an enjoyable time working with the colors, mixing colors, coming up with color mixes that we like, that are going to work for our paintings and your seascape paintings. So you'll continue to work with this. You'll find different photographs you might work from. But I think if we just come at this with the idea of having fun, a good time, not worrying about it if it's a great painting, or anything like that. Just let's have fun. Let's enjoy the whole process of the painting. Now that I have the colors mixed, I'm pretty happy with the colors. I wanted to keep it warmer, the colors warmer at the horizon line here, where the water is. I want to keep this warmer, and then cooler up here as we go up into the, we can add a little more to make our painting a little more dynamic looking. We can actually add some darker bits of French ultramarine blue, like this. So that's one thing we can always do to make things look a little more interesting. And then we also said we wanted to add some white to our ocean area for the white caps of the water. So I'll shift over to a different brush. Now I'm going to go with my round number 2 brush. And again, I have that yellow ochre mixed with the white. We want to have the white paint mixed with a little bit of yellow ochre, just to give it that warm white feel. And then we'll do that. And we'll roll around our brush here, get some paint on there, and then we can rest our hand on our table. If you're working on a table, you can add some white. You can go on thickly with the white. You might do some like that, just a little bit of feeling of the water moving. Maybe there's a bit of a wave here coming in. You could grab a whole bunch of white and just put it on there like so. Then I'll just touch up the edges over here. You could add some yellow ochre at the bottom here. That would kind of give us the feel of sand, some sand. So now we're seeing a little bit of sand in beach area, possibly some wet sand, I would say, maybe over here. This way kind of gives us a reference that we are standing probably at the beach area, looking out into the ocean with that little bit of yellow, kind of grayish color there. And then after this, let's make the boat. And for the boat, I'll use my palette knife. So I'll just rinse off my brush. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We've already been working like 20 minutes, I would say. Let's get our boat in next, and then we have a completed painting. Also, maybe a distant mountain or two. So we'll put a distant mountain in the painting over here on the left side like we have in this painting. And we'll put our boat in there right around the center of the painting or so. And we'll do that in just a second. Let's just take a quick break. And I always thank you for coming by. Hope you'll subscribe on the right-hand side below. If you're watching this video and you think to yourself, yeah, I'd like to do more paintings like this, don't lose us. Simple as just subscribing. If you subscribe, all it does is just next time we're creating a new video, oil painting, you're going to see it. It'll just be in your queue when you open up YouTube the next time. You'll just have a little thing on the side of YouTube where you're viewing your videos. You'll see on the right-hand side on your TV screen or your phone screen or your computer screen, you'll just see a little note that I've made a new video. You'll see like the picture of the video, the thumbnail. And that's really it. That's all subscribing really does. Just keeps you in contact so you can keep working along with us here. We're having a fun time. So let's keep the momentum going here. We're painting in oils, and we're going to continue having a great time of it. And we'll come right back and we'll just finish up with our distant mountain on the left and our boat in the center.